Setting Goals Part 2. What's your goal? How much money do you want to make? Let's say in the next 12 months. Let's start from today. In the next 12 months, I want to make how much money? I'm going to pick a number. But before we do, it's more important to know what your expenses are. Because if you want to make $50,000 and your expenses for the next 12 months are $60,000, you will never be able to make up the gap of the $10,000. So I'd rather you start with what your expenses are. And let's just look at what your monthly expenses are. Do you have savings? Do you have insurance? How about the mortgage or your rent where you're living? Your car, cable, gym, partying, miscellaneous. And for me, food, because I like to eat out and I like to eat a lot. So food is a big part of my expenses. So what's a big part of your expenses? And then don't forget your real estate expenses. So you have NAREB and NAR and your state dues and your local board dues, your MLS dues. And don't forget about the gas it takes to do the job you do, the clothes, your education, the marketing that's ongoing for branding and advertising and for your listings that you have. Once you have all that together, and by the way, you should have in your mind what that looks like, because after all, you're the CEO of you.com. After all, you're running a business, and you should know what the numbers look like for your business. And it will be different from my business or even the person in your office that may share your cube. All your expenses are different, what your expectations are, how much money you want to make. If you haven't done so already, pause this, pull out a pencil and paper, and start listing what are your expenses every month, reoccurring expenses, and then those that are one-off expenses. Don't forget if you owe your college monthly payments. Don't forget those expenses for alimony. Don't forget child support. Don't forget all of those other expenses that we may not all have, but you personally have. Okay, I'm going to use for this example a goal of $70,000 a year. Now, for some of you, you will say, gosh, I just left a job. I was making $27,000 a year. I'm not sure I can go from $27,000 to $70,000. So maybe you want to adjust yours. Maybe you just want to double what you did last year. Some of you are saying $70,000, that's not a lot. I can't live off of that. I want more money. The process we're going to go through is the same whether you want to make $70,000 or $700,000, okay? The average price in my area is about $250,000. I don't know what it is where you live, but whatever that number is, plug it in here. So the assumptions for what we're doing today, $70,000 a year is what I want to make, and the average price of a house in my area is $250,000. I'm also going to further assume that I'm going to make about 3% on each side of the transaction. So we're going to assume that 3% on each side of the transaction is what you're getting. For some of you, you may be getting a little less. And for some of you who are selling new homes with builder bonuses and commissions, you may be making a little bit more on that transaction. But for the purpose of this one, we're going to say 3% per transaction. $250,000, 3% of that, $7,500. However, you're going to need to pay your broker if you're not the broker yourself. So let's subtract out 30%. Yeah, I know some of you are on 90-10, some of you are on 100%. Whatever your commission split is with your broker, this is where you would take that. For a lot of us, it's a 70-30 split. So let's take out our broker's 30%, which leaves us with $5,250, $5,250. Some of us have fees that also come out of that, whether or not they're E&O or desk fees or franchise fees, advertising fees, technology fees, whatever that fee is in the office where you work, subtract it from that. For this example, we're going to say it's about $100. After you subtract out the fees, it leaves us with $5,150. Our goal is $70,000 a year. If we take the $5,150 and divide it into the dollar amount that we want to make, the $70,000, it says we need to do 13 and a half, let's call it 14 homes a year. 14 homes a year. 14 homes a year, it means that every 6 months I need to close 7 transactions. That means every quarter I need to close 3 to 4 transactions, and every single month I need to close 1 to 2 transactions in order for me to achieve my $70,000 a year goal. Let's talk about the levers in the system that we just talked about. If I sold houses that were $500,000 as opposed to $250,000, I could sell less homes. As opposed to selling 14 homes, I would only have to sell 7 homes at the higher price point to achieve the $70,000 goal. Or if I made more than the 3%, maybe I'm doing builder homes. Maybe they are doubling the commission. Maybe I'm getting 6% commission. At 6% commission, I don't have to sell as many homes. Also, if my split with my broker was different, if I was making more money, or if it was a graduated fee, so maybe at the end of the year, as opposed to paying 70-30, I'm now at 90-10, or even 100%, I'm keeping more of my money, that would adjust these numbers. If the fees were 0, or if the fees are adjusted, I could save more of my money. So if you're out interviewing a new broker, this is probably one of the questions you want to ask. Not only is what's the commission split, but also what are the fees? Let's talk about what happens when you say yes, when somebody says, will you reduce your commission? How about reducing the commission just 1%? So let me show you what that looks like. The goal stays the same at $70,000. The average price of the house stays the same at $250,000. But now, as opposed to getting 3%, you're going to only get 2%. 2% of the $250,000 is $5,000. After the 70-30 split, it's $3,500. And then after the same $100 fees, it's $3,400. If I divide the $3,400 into our goal of $70,000, it's about 20 and a half or 21 homes. That's 50% more than if I kept the entire 3% commission. Here's one I want you to remember. Every time you say yes to your friend, yes to your family member, yes to your neighbor, that I will reduce my commission and I'll reduce it by 1%, I want you to keep in mind that you're going to have to close more transactions. Let me give you an example. I had a next door neighbor, great guy, and I had sold his house before, looking forward to helping him sell this house. I go to the listing appointment, and before I can get into the door, he says, Renee, of course you're going to do this for 5%. Of course you're going to reduce it and give me your friends and family discount. And I said, John, let me in. Let's sit down. Let's talk about this. He said, no, you don't want to come home every day and see somebody else's sign in the yard, do you? So say you're going to do it for 5%. So I said, okay, John, I'll do it for 5%. I go in. He doesn't ask any other questions. He signs all the paperwork. We have a good little social chit-chat. He and his wife and family, we're all talking. And then I go home and I realize I just gave up $6,500. Now, I don't know about your world. In my world, $6,500 pays the mortgage, pays the car note, pays for the food, pays for me to go shopping. It's quite a bit of money. Was I going to change my marketing any? No, not at all. Was I going to change the process of how I sell his house? No, not at all. But I had left $6,500 on the table. I could have transferred that 1% into dollars and only talked to him in dollars and not percentages, because everybody feels it's just 1%. It's just one little percent, Renee. But when you do the math, it's $6,500. I had said, John, look, I'll give you $5,000 back at closing. And even though I don't want you giving up your commission, in order to save the deal, I could have given him $5,000. Sounds a lot more than 1%. He would have been happy, and I would have saved myself $1,500. If you're going to negotiate, and if your broker allows you to negotiate the commission, don't negotiate percentage, negotiate dollars. You probably will be able to save yourself some money. Keep in mind, no is a full sentence and an acceptable answer. Talk to your broker about some other responses you might want to give if they say, will you reduce your commission? In our office, here's a couple that we use. Maybe you don't understand where the money goes, half of which doesn't even come to me. It goes to someone else. It's the buyer's agent, the buyer's broker gets half. Of my half, a portion of that actually goes to my broker. Another portion of that goes to Uncle Sam because I have to pay my taxes as well. A portion of that goes to marketing and the selling of your property. A portion of that actually goes for my education, my license, in order to keep me viable to be in the marketplace to sell property. And then this is what's left for me, my family, for us to live on that. So that's one way to go. Another way to go is, if I can't hold on to my commission, if I can't negotiate the money for me, how would you ever trust me to negotiate the money for you? Here's another one. I don't know. My broker sets the commission and the rates. I just work for my broker, so I would have to really ask my broker, but she sets the rates. Here's another one. God forbid something should happen to your kid. Would you want the cheapest doctor or would you want the best doctor? There's a lot that you can do. And here's what I know for sure, is that it really doesn't matter what I say. It really doesn't matter what script I use. If you don't believe you deserve the money, that you earn the money, that you'll save the money, that you'll make the process easier for them, then you'll give up the money every time. You'll say yes to everybody who asks for your money. And you will be broke, or you're going to have to sell more houses. Either way, learn to say no, learn to hold on to your commission, because that's how you're going to be able to build your business. At 21 homes, that means every 6 months, I'm going to have to sell 10 or 11 houses. Every quarter, I'm going to have to sell 5 or 6. And every month, I'm going to have to sell 2 or 3. If I give up my commission, I'm going to have to sell more homes. Not only am I going to have to sell more homes, that every month, I'm going to have to sell more homes in order to achieve my $70,000 a year.